Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming today. How's it all going? How's all the other panelists doing here? Is everyone good today?
We're doing
Doing
well,
great.
ready for
Doing
this.
amazing. How are you doing,
Daniel, do you have
Daniel?
your coffee?
Yes, I do. I have the greatest mug ever as well. So, you know,
So cute.
special shout out for the Wallace and Gromit mug. I love that. It's my favorite mug to pull out for random stuff. It always gets a laugh from people. All right, so where is everyone today?
Well, we would love to hear everyone that's viewing from the chat where you all are from, but I'll definitely introduce. I think most of us are probably in New York. I at least am in my dorm. I live in Founders Hall because I'm a freshman, which is one of the many dorms at NYU. But yeah, Lulu, where are you from?
Hi. Well, I'm currently in New York in my apartment. I see Suchana is also in New York in the comments. And I'm from Orlando, but here I'm a junior, so I'm living off campus.
Yeah, I can go next. I usually live in my dorm. I'm at Carlisle, but right now I'm at home in Jersey for my parents' birthday. So, yay, Jersey.
All right, so two people not in New York today. I'm actually at home as well. I'm in Lancaster, PA. So if anyone knows where that is, congratulations. And I'm just kind of streaming, um, you know, hanging out around here. Get to see my parents again, so it's really nice.
All right, that's awesome. If anyone else could um, say where they are from in the comments, all of the viewers, that would be great. We would love to know where everyone's from, where they're tuning in from, just to see kind of how diverse NYU is. But until then, we are going to kind of all formally introduce ourselves as we start this session.
Yeah, so I guess I'm starting first then. My name's Daniel McMichael. I'm currently concentrating in finance and statistics with a minor in math. So you can tell I like math a little bit. My hometown's Lancaster, Pennsylvania, just where I mentioned where I was from. And as for involvements, I'm in Stern Political Economy Exchange, or as we call it here, SPEX, SPEX. Stern Program for Undergraduate Research, where I'm working with Professor Michael North on the AGE Lab. And that's also called Spur, in case you would like to know. And then I'm also an orientation leader and CLP guide.
All right, thanks, Daniel. I can go next. My name is Sachi. I'm a freshman here at NYU Stern. I'm majoring in business and political economy, and I'm also minoring in math. My hometown is Noonan, Georgia, which is about 30 minutes south of Atlanta. For those of you that are familiar with the area, and in terms of other involvements outside of street team, obviously, I'm involved in Net Impact, which is like a social impact focused business organization within Stern. I'm in the Social Impact Fellows program, and also like Daniel, I'm in the Stern program for undergraduate research, working on a project related to sustainability in the mining industry.
Hi, everyone. My name is Danielle Orr. I go by she, her pronouns. I'm in the BS in Business program studying marketing and computing and data science with a minor in the business of entertainment, media, and technology. As I said before, I'm from Jersey City, New Jersey. Go Jersey. Aside from street team, I'm a part of Consult Your Community, where I do or I help in pro bono consulting work for small businesses in the community, and One Love at NYU, which promotes healthy relationships.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lulu, and my pronouns are she, her. I'm currently a junior studying finance and data science, and I'm also minoring in public policy and management. So, as I mentioned earlier, I'm from Orlando. And then on campus, aside from street team, I'm also in the undergraduate Stern Women in Business Club, and I'm also in 180 Degrees Consulting, which offers social impact consulting projects to nonprofits and small businesses around New York City and also nationwide. And I'm also an incoming orientation leader for next semester, so hopefully I'll get to see some of you in person.
Now we kind of wanted to start answering some of you all's questions, and the most important reason you're here is why Stern. So we kind of wanted to each share some of the reasons that we chose Stern. And Daniel, you're welcome to start.
Yeah, sure thing. So I mostly chose Stern for just the atmosphere and actually coming to New York City for once. So as you can see, a lot of my stuff here is around New York City and all the cool stuff that you can do. So at one point, I went to Nobu with some of my friends or one of my friends' birthday, and that was honestly a really good experience. And so I put the lovely platter of sashimi that I had there. Actually, unironically, the best sashimi I've ever had. All right, I can't talk apparently. And on the right of that, you'll see probably my favorite cafe. It's Cafe Aroma up in 39th Street. And then just some other stuff, pictures of the city, Thanksgiving Day parade, a very nice picture I found of the or that I took of Washington Square Park, and then also the Armory track, which I went to and I ran at once, which was pretty cool. And so, I just kind of came to Stern specifically for the New York atmosphere, and studying business on the as well as getting to explore New York and kind of combining those two things has been a really great experience for me, and it's something that I've really liked and actually cherish much more about Stern now that I'm actually doing it rather than just thinking about it from a high school perspective.
Yeah, that's really cool, Daniel. Definitely food and restaurants is a really cool part of New York City that I know a lot of people enjoy, and I'm definitely one of them. I chose Stern kind of for a variety of reasons, and I'm currently a freshman, so I was in you all's shoes just a year ago. But I really like that NYU and Stern's academics are kind of all placed in a global context, and for me, particularly through the BPE program, or Business and Political Economy, as I mentioned earlier. And we get to kind of learn alongside a really diverse group of students in really one of the most diverse cities. And kind of as Daniel mentioned, I really appreciated some of the community aspect of NYU also. So as you can see through some of these pictures, I've made a lot of great friendships. And one of the pictures in the bottom right is actually from the first week of orientation where everyone got to kind of go to the US Open. And it was a really great opportunity to meet other Stern freshmen that were also kind of learning. And some of those people I'm still friends with today. So it's really cool to be part of that kind of community. And everyone has been really supportive. And even though college can sometimes get busy, overall NYU's been super fun and exciting, and I'm like super glad I ended up here.
Yeah, so looking at my reason for coming to Stern, a big part of it was also the community here. At Stern, I found like a great community of people who are passionate about the same things that I am, and we all support each other as we go through this like crazy college experience together. So you can see my pictures like with the friends I made here. I've been able to go to a lot of concerts in the New York City area, which is like my favorite thing. I love music, especially live music. I go to a lot of the NYU events, such as like the photo, like the bottom middle, which is so cool. I was like meeting my idol for the first time, which is so fun. I love to go to antique shops or thrift stores in Manhattan or Brooklyn. And a big part of it, as like everyone has mentioned before me, like the food. I love the food in New York City. My favorite place is Ruby's, so I definitely recommend it to anyone who wants to try some really good Australian food.
Hi everyone, definitely echoing what everyone else said. I just really loved the environment that NYU Stern is in. I knew I wanted something big, open, diverse, where I can meet a lot of new people, make a lot of new memories, and I certainly did do that coming here. And throughout my 3 years here so far, I've met a lot of amazing friends. Like the first picture in the top left, these three friends I met through Stern, and I'm really close with them. And actually, I met two of them in during welcome week in freshman year, which is the week before classes start, and you get to do a bunch of fun events with other freshmen. And then we host a lot of dinner parties, so like we make a bunch of food together, and it's just really fun, especially since I live in East Village, which is the neighborhood that NYU is in. So a lot of our peers also live in this area, and people just come over and we make dinner together. And I also joined this amazing club called Undergraduate Diploma in Business earlier that I mentioned. And we got to plan a huge conference this year, and my conference team is in the middle holding coffee together, bonded with them throughout the year. And then I also joined a dance team coming to New York. I really love dancing outside of school, so I went to a lot of concerts with my dance friends. You can see kind of my concert pictures down there too. And I also joined a student council for my first 2 years, and we had like a ball or a semi-formal, and that's like the bottom right picture. So yeah, definitely made a lot of fun memories. And yeah.
Yeah, that sounds great, Lulu. We do have a question in the chat. Suchna asks, "What are some learning slash affinity clubs that strengthen this community?" Lulu, I know you mentioned USWIB, or the Undergraduate Stern Women in Business, just now. Do you want to talk a little bit more about how that's helped you find community?
Yeah, so this is a really, really inclusive club that I found in my freshman fall, and immediately I fell in love with the community because everyone there was really welcoming, and it was totally okay that I didn't know anything as a freshman. I didn't know anything about business, and this club helped me learn about different areas of business, and I realized there were so many different types of jobs and industries that I can go into, and I learned that through listening to peers, going to panels, events, and there's also a lot of social events where you get to bond with your fellow classmates. And that's also the club where I met a lot of my closest friends now. And now a lot of us are on board together. And it's just really fun doing this club and going through all the experiences together.
Awesome. We have another question about the New York experience and how being in New York actually enhances not only the fun aspect, but also the learning. Danara or Daniel, do you want to take this?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Oh, do you actually want to take it?
That's okay, Danny, you can go.
Okay, okay. All right. So for me, New York, like actually living in New York City has been a great experience because one of the great things about New York is that you can explore. And so for me, I every weekend I would literally take some time and go to one of the different parts, like some different part of New York City, just to explore it for a bit. And so not only did that really help me understand like more of the different areas around New York City and just learning about New York City itself, but when I say explore, I also mean stuff like how internationally wide and broad that New York is just as a place, right? So you can go to many different areas and many different boroughs, meet many different cultures, along with in Stern. And then also, if you're looking at it from a more like exploring your career path option, there's plenty of different stuff. There's a whole bunch of startups that start in New York City. You know, New York City's the city that never sleeps. And so you can honestly learn a lot from different startups that you meet, different people that you meet around, and the opportunities that you have to actually go out and explore are endless here. So anything you can think of that you would want to do, you can probably do in New York City. And so that's honestly the greatest thing, especially for me who, when I came in here, I didn't know what I wanted to do at all. I had like 50 different crazy ideas in my head. And so being in New York allowed me to actually explore some of those and see what I really liked.
Awesome. We can do one more question, and then I know there's some academics questions coming in, which we'll touch on later. But the last question we can talk about is, what are some resources for international students to help us assimilate in a new place? I'm not sure if any of us are international students, correct me if I'm wrong, but based on some of my friends that I do know at Stern that are international students, they've really found a sense of community. There are specific NYU organizations that are devoted to like international students being able to find community, and there's even a specific Stern organization in some way called the International Business Association that's focused on both international students that want to kind of explore the global aspect of business, but really anyone that maybe is interested in business and traveling to another country and studying that. So there are definitely all sorts of resources, and obviously your dorm life and classes are all great ways to make friends for both international and any other students. But I think with that, we can kind of move into some academics related questions. I guess do one thing I think is important to talk about is if any of you all have found really interesting Stern classes or favorite professors. Danara or Daniel, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I can go first. So in the marketing concentration, one of my favorite classes has been brand strategy and planning with Professor Menon. She's an amazing professor. In that class, I learned about the importance of a brand, especially like a brand identity, which is super important for the companies that we learn about in our cases, but also it helped us learn about our own personal brand and how we want to be perceived and like our identity image gap, which was super amazing. And I love learning about it. And then I also have like a lot of favorite professors because all the professors I've had are really caring. They really want you to succeed. So I've never really had a bad experience with a professor. They've all been the absolute best.
Yeah, and I can follow up with that. So my favorite class has actually been one that I'm taking right now. It's equity valuation with Professor Demoteran, one of the more famous professors at NYU Stern. Honestly, just going to his class, it's a giant, it's the Paulson Auditorium, if any of you know that. So it's this giant lecture hall in Stern, and so just hearing him talk about how he values companies different from other, how it's generally done in the industry, and just his take on it is very, very interesting to me. And Professor Demoter and just as a speaker is really really good. So he's one of the few professors who keeps me really entertained throughout all of class, rather than just spitting a bunch of information like some other professors I've had. As for my favorite professor, it's going to be my Principles of Financial Accounting professor. So Principles of Financial Accounting is your introductory accounting course that you're allowed to take from your freshman fall later on, and that was Professor Kim Chung Ho. He was honestly the chillest professor I've had. He was always willing to talk, always going to office hours, and I really learned a lot about accounting from his class. So I really, really like actually enjoyed sitting down with him and learning from him and just going through his whole class, like as I really didn't know anything about accounting coming into it. So definitely my favorite professor by far. But all of my professors have really been cool, and I really love all of them. My economics and global business professor like started one class just by doing push-ups straight up, like in the middle of class. It was the funniest thing. Everyone was laughing. So you'll meet a lot of cool professors here. And I guess on that note, kind of following up, how has Stern prepared you guys for the real world? Because we see Stern as like this, class. Obviously, we're trying to be prepared for the real world when we come out to it. How has it really enhanced like your professional experience and your real world experience, rather than just academics? So, if Sachi or Lulu wants to take that, you can go ahead.
Yeah, I can start. I think my experience is slightly different just because I'm a freshman. One thing I would encourage all incoming freshmen to do is kind of take your time when it comes to professional development. Stern has plenty of resources. So they have the PDC, or Professional Development and Career Education team, where you can have one on one sessions to talk about resumes or internships. But I think the first thing that I've really been trying to focus on is just exploring a variety of different industries, especially because business is really broad, and all of you all are coming here to learn about different industries. So trying to keep an open mind is really important when you're thinking about kind of future careers that you want. But really, there's so many opportunities. There's both like the PDCE team and Wasserman, which is the NYU wide center where you can get help with internships and careers. But there's even kind of more informal settings. So a lot of the more pre-professional Stern clubs have opportunities where you can chat with upperclassmen or ask questions related to kind of their internships or experiences in the kind of professional world. So there's plenty of ways that you can kind of be exposed to the professional side, but definitely don't stress too much about it as soon as you're coming in, because you'll definitely have that time to explore later. Lulu?
Yeah, definitely want to echo what Sashi said. Especially another resource that I utilized through Stern is the Peer Mentors program. And I personally really love this because what happens is there's a bunch of seniors who have gone through finding the process of finding a job, who have gone through a lot of the things that you're about to go through. And you can sign up for one on one appointments with them for free. And they'll basically sit you down, talk about your career interests. You can choose what kind of industry you want to talk about. You can choose to have a resume workshop or interview prep, and they'll basically help you one on one. And I found this to be very helpful because I developed a really personal and strong bond with one of the mentors that I went to consistently. And it's a very low pressure setting where you're not afraid to make mistakes and you're not afraid to admit you don't know how to do something, because these are your peers, right? And they're only like a few years older than you, and they know exactly how you feel because they've been in your shoes. So I really like the setup, and I definitely signed up for a lot of appointments when I was looking for internships. Um, and another thing that I really like is kind of like what Sachi mentioned, the clubs that we have at Stern. A lot of the clubs, again, are also where you meet a lot of other peers, right? And so it's a lot more low pressure setting where they can teach you about interviews, and you can learn about what exactly do you do in a job. And I think that also really helped me figure out where I want to go into now that I'm a junior. And I know that I want to go into consulting. And mainly, I learned that through this club that I mentioned earlier, 180 Degrees Consulting. So definitely, Stern has a lot of great resources.
Awesome. Before we kind of take some questions, I know there was a question about whether this live session will be up on YouTube. It will be, so don't worry if you forget about something or you want to go back and watch because it'll be there. Let's take Elaine's question, which says, "Is the Stern curve really as brutal and unfair as many people have been telling me?" Does anyone want to take this?
I guess I can take this. So the Stern curve, for those of you that are unaware of it, is where if a core class has 25 or more students in it, then 35% of the students are going to be getting an A or an A minus in the class. And so it sounds harsh and it sounds like it's super competitive, but one thing that is really nice about it is that it's actually meant to help you. It's not what a lot of people think it is it's there to actually hurt you, as everyone's going to be getting, like, say, a 90%, a 90 or 95%. And then if you get like, a 94, you automatically you get a B plus instead of something. It's actually not really like that. It's meant to help you. So a lot of our classes are kind of built a little bit more difficult. And so the professors make it this way. Just so that you're really actually learning when you're so you come out really, really learning the concepts. And so one of the things, like if you take some of the harder concepts, uh, and you say you're a little fuzzy on the harder concepts, but you really know the basics well, that's kind of what we're trying to get at with this. And so the Stern curve is actually there and meant to help you, contrary to what a lot of people think. And so it's actually helped me a lot in some of my classes. And so it's really, really nice actually to kind of have it there, despite what everyone says. So, for as brutal as it does sound, it's not actually as brutal when you get here.
Yeah, I see Elaine mentioned another question about Welcome Week. And does it happen before dorm move in or does it start after everyone moves in? So I mentioned Welcome Week in my answer earlier when I was talking about why Stern, I think. And it happens after you move in. So everyone's already on campus, or most of the freshmen. And it's basically a week where NYU puts in a lot of events, and there's like boba socials, movie nights, going out on an adventure to, let's say, Central Park. I forgot the exact place, but there's a lot of things like that. And I actually met some of my best friends now through this social event I went to, where we all grabbed boba drinks and we walked around the city. Definitely a very fun time.
I can talk on this question. So aside from like the writing center, there is like a lot of tutors at NYU or at Stern who can help you with various classes. I know there's some tutors who like focus solely on like finance or operations management. So you always have someone you can rely on. In terms of the writing center, I went actually last semester for a paper that I had. So it was a great experience. You sign up with the peer writing mentor and you meet with them and they go through your writing, give you any tips on how to improve. You can also talk to them about like what class it's for, so they kind of have an idea what type of writing it should be or like what style it should be in. So overall, there's a lot of great academic programs here, in addition to having a professor or your TA as another source to rely on for any help.
All right, great. We have kind of another question related to careers. So the question is, NYU is a finance-focused school, but what are some other career paths or unconventional career paths that students have taken? I want to kind of add a little bit of a caveat. I know that finance is definitely a popular concentration and career path for many students, but it's definitely not the sole focus. In that we have over 13 concentrations, and finance is popular, but there's plenty of other concentrations like marketing and data science that are more popular. And I think that in the past few years, especially, Stern students have been going on to do a lot of other careers like in tech and marketing, especially. So definitely don't think that you're limited. But I don't know if anyone else wants to touch on kind of some unconventional career paths for you or just anyone.
I can take this real quick. So I actually went to a club meeting for the economic development group Thursday, and the whole thing was exploring different career paths that are a little bit more unconventional. And so a lot of them were talking about how people will come out of here and go into a master's program or go into doing potentially a PhD program and trying to go into research. And others is like going into public policy or going into the more public sector of things. Not really focusing as much on the private sector, but more if you want to make a change and an impact. One thing that Stern is very known for is actually going and making a change and an impact. And so a lot of our students are doing that now, which is really nice to see, to be honest. And then one other thing that's really important to mention is that I almost don't see anyone who's only has like one concentration. So concentrations here it's very common for people to have two concentrations and a minor outside or not just focused on finance. So you could hear someone say, oh yeah, I'm doing finance, but there's always going to be an and blank after. So for me, it's finance and statistics. For other people, it might be finance and marketing, or even like something like management and data science or something like that. So it's never just solely a finance focus. There's always going to be like an and after that for a lot of people.
Yeah, I kind of want to add on to that about the sustainability programs at Stern. Kind of like what Daniel mentioned, social impact is a really big thing here. It's built into our curriculum, and you have to take social impact classes. On top of that, there's also a lot of ways for you to explore careers in sustainable business. I personally took a lot of classes in sustainable business, and I also have a relationship with one of the professors who runs the Stern Center for Sustainable Business, and they post a lot of job opportunities where you can find work for nonprofits, government agencies, research agencies, and even just normal companies that are looking for a sustainability intern or someone who has some knowledge or interest in CSR, which is corporate social responsibility. And so I would say that personally, I'm pretty involved in this space, and I know a lot of people are also really interested in not just this sustainability, but also other areas as well.
Awesome. We actually have a question about study abroad here, but particularly the differences between IBEX and ISP. And for those of you that don't know those terms, we can definitely talk about that. But one kind of missing component of this question is that there are kind of a variety of ways that STEM students particularly can study away. So the first is the general NYU study away sites, which are pretty popular. So personally, I'm going to London next semester through the BPE program, and I'm really excited about that. And I'm sure others can speak about any possible study abroad experiences they've had, if so. But in addition to NYU Study Away, there are two programs specifically at Stern called IBEX and ISP. Does anyone want to kind of break those down and talk about the differences and opinions about them?
Yeah, I can talk about ISP since I'm currently taking it right now. And it's called the International Studies Program. And basically, every junior is required to take this class in your spring semester. And in past years before COVID, what will happen is you take the semester to learn about a specific company that is based in an international location. And then during spring break, everyone who is taking that class on that specific company will take a trip to that company's headquarters. So I'm taking Sweden, or the country that we're focusing on is Sweden, and the company is headquartered there. Unfortunately, because of COVID, we could not go in the past 3 years, but ISP traditionally was built around this project and trip. I don't know if anyone else want to talk about IBEX or add on to ISP.
Yeah, I could talk a little bit about IBEX. So IBEX is the International Business Exchange. It's when, if you're in a junior or senior year, you can go to a partner school. So there's there's actually 17 partner schools that you can go to, such as like Sciences Po, which is in Paris, France. So you just stay there for a semester and you take classes there at that university. I personally haven't been on IBEX, but I have friends who have, and they say it was an amazing experience because you're able to really immerse yourself in the culture of that country. While being a student at a completely different university. So it's a really fun experience. However, it's only open to juniors and seniors.
Oh, I can take this one. So CAS does have a lot of placement tests, but there are none for Stern. So Stern has a lot of Stern's curriculum is built around you taking a lot of these different classes. And I guess just so everyone can hear the question, I've heard things about placement tests for CAS. Is there any for Stern that I should be aware of or start prepping for? So there aren't really any that you should be aware of or start prepping for. I guess the only one to explicitly mention, which is also another question here, is for the 4 credit statistics. And so for the 4 credit statistics, if you have a 4 or a 5 on the statistics exam, you can actually bypass this. Now, I would only really recommend this for people who are very confident in their statistics abilities. And before doing this, you should also definitely contact your academic advisor when you do get to contact them. Mine for me has been a great experience, and he's been really great helping me out through everything. So thank you to him, quick. But there aren't any that you have to really consider. The only, I guess, other thing is potential math placement test if you'd like to place out of Calc 1, 2, or for me, I placed out of Calc 3. And going into some higher level math, instead of just doing Calc 1 right away, you can do that. That is an option to you. However, it's not really a major limiter. So you don't really have to start studying. You don't have to cram study for any tests over the summer. Enjoy your summer, take a break, and relax for a bit. You've already made it to Stern. So
Yeah, I can definitely add on to this question about the statistics placement exam. Daniel, I definitely agree with everything that Daniel said, and I know I would like had this exact same dilemma like a year ago. One kind of caveat I would add is think a little bit about when you took like statistics. So for me, I took it pretty early on in high school, so I knew for a fact that I would like forget most statistics knowledge. So it was probably just better for me to go ahead and take the 6 credit class, get to review kind of already what I had learned in high school, but like have a more solid foundation before taking the like subsequent 2 credit part. So if anyone else is having kind of this dilemma, definitely just like do kind of what you think is best for you, and it'll kind of work out. And definitely take the help of your academic advisors, who are really great resources, and I highly recommend meeting with them, both like during class registration, but also during the semester. I think that's it kind of for academic related questions. We can kind of dive a little bit more into the global aspect of NYU. So I know there's Study Away, which we kind of touched on, but also New York City itself is a really global area. So does anyone have any stories or kind of experiences that they would like to share with how they were able to transition to New York City kind of going in?
I guess I can start this one as well. So I am, as I mentioned, I'm from Lancaster, Pennsylvania, which is known for being more of a rural area. And so I came to the city a little bit too excited. You get to see everything new for the first time. And so I was definitely very excited. And one of my favorite things I did actually is the past semester, a few of my friends and I went to Anime NYC just to, see what it's like, go around, kind of walk around all the different booths. And it was a really cool experience and I really enjoyed it. And I guess another one is, yeah, as you saw in the collage there, I went up to the Armory track. A few of my friends from different schools came up to the Armory track for that day. They were competing in a competition, so I got to go there, meet with them, watch them, cheer them on, and also see the NYU team run as well, which was really cool for me to actually watch. So overall, I also mentioned, I kind of go around the boroughs and see what I can find, just kind of seeing if I can find niche spots that are really cool and very like unexpected, to be honest, so that I can take other people there and say, yeah, look, see, I actually know New York. So I've definitely had a bunch of fun exploring New York City. You're going to have plenty of time to do it as well. You're not going to be overburdened with anything too much. So definitely, take the time and actually explore the city like I have.
Yeah, I can add a little bit to what Daniel was saying. I also kind of came from a little bit of a small town, so definitely take the time to explore. But I know one thing for me is that sometimes I could kind of get overwhelmed in like how big the city is, and there's so much to do. So definitely take your time and don't feel like you need to like do something new like all the time. Like it's okay to kind of take a break one day, because I know with classes and kind of exploring it's a lot. Um, but know that kind of like you're still in a really cool city, and sometimes it's easy to get worked up about like school and exams, but definitely remember that you're in a really cool city that like everyone would love to be in, to take advantage of that when you have that opportunity.
Yeah, now I have a question for all of you. So, like, what's your favorite go-to place for food in the city?
I feel like I'm a really indecisive person, so this is usually a really hard question for me, which is why I love going to St. Mark's, and it's a street, really close to NYU, and what it has is it has a bunch of different restaurants, vendors, street food, desserts, and I love going there because as an indecisive person, I can just walk around and be like, "Oh, I'm feeling that place today," and I'll go there. And the street is known for its Asian food. So there's a variety of Asian cuisine you can try there. There's ramen places, udon, there's like curry, a bunch of really cool things you can just try. And then I also really love going to Koreatown or K-Town because once again, as an indecisive person, it offers me a lot of options where I can just walk around and see, oh, I'm feeling having some tteokbokki today, which is Korean rice cakes. And I would just see that place and go in. So New York City definitely offers a lot of variety, and you'll never run out of things to try.
Sorry, I'll just interrupt. Lulu, have you ever been to Spot Dessert Bar? It's like on St. Mark's.
Yes,
It's
actually, they
really good.
host a lot of NYU events at Spot Dessert Bar. Actually, out of all the times I've been there, I've actually ate there for free all those times because of
Oh,
NYU.
really?
Yeah.
That's so cool. It's very good. I've been a couple times. It's super nice. There's all sorts of like cool desserts and ice cream. So I highly recommend if everyone's listening and you're like near that area. And if you live near, like I live near Founders, but also Third North, it's like St. Mark's is right there. So definitely pretty accessible to NYU dorms. In terms of a go-to place for me, I don't know. I think I'm also kind of indecisive. Like I try to just like kind of explore new places as much as possible. I also another kind of street where there's a lot of really great restaurants is McDougal Street, which is also kind of near NYU, and there's all sorts of great restaurants. There's like a Mamoon's falafel place with a lot of Mediterranean food. There's all sorts of Asian cuisine. I actually went to an Ethiopian restaurant recently, which was super cool because I've never had Ethiopian food. So there's plenty food wise to kind of explore, and it's also right near NYU. So it's great, especially if you're like still exploring the area. That's a great place to start, I think.
Yeah, so first off, Lulu, you're gonna have to tell me how I can go to Spot Dessert for free through NYU. I definitely want to know that as I'm a sugar addict, as much as I hate to admit it. I'm also a bit of a coffee addict, so I have my lovely grommet mug here with my coffee. And so I like to spend most of my time going around to different cafes in the city and exploring and seeing which one's actually my favorite. And so there's a very clear answer to this, and it's Cafe Aroma up on 39th Street and I think or 38th Street and like 9th Avenue. It's right around that area. It is by far the best cafe I've ever gone to. They've had the best coffee, best croissants I've ever had. If you come to the city, please go there for the love of everything. It is so good. Other than that, I enjoy going to different areas for their lunch special, and one of my favorite is Takumi Ramen. Um, it's right next to Weinstein, so it's very convenient. It's a very cool and popular hangout spot for a lot of NYU students just because it's so close to Weinstein. So I did actually dorm in Weinstein, so I spent a lot of my time going there whenever I was really hungry and wanted like that late night meal. As for which meals you'd meal plans, I would go with the basic one just to get that out really quick. It's definitely more than enough. I have a friend right now actually who's on the basic meal plan, and she is not ever going to finish that. For as much, a lot of it is all you can eat buffets. So you can go in once, or at least what she does is she goes in once, gets her fill for like the entire day, and then just really doesn't go anymore. So uh, it's more than enough for you. And if you always do need some later on, you can always buy some meal plan, like an additional part to the meal plan later on. So I definitely just stick with the 225.
Yeah,
Thank you, Jen.
100% agree. Oh, yeah, Lulu, you can go.
Oh,
Okay.
no, I was just gonna say, like, I'll tell you about the Spot Dessert Bar thing, definitely. But and on top of the meal plan, NYU actually has a really great program where if you have extra meal swipes at the end of the semester, you can just like donate it through Swipe It Forward, which is what it's called. And then people who don't have a meal plan or their meal swipes are running out, they can go to a dining hall and say, "Can I use Swipe It Forward?" And then they'll just give you the meal for free, like without no questions asked.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion. One other thing about the meal plan. is that it also depends on like kind of your dorm circumstances. So I know some of the dorms like Third North have a specific kind of designated kitchen. So maybe if you cook more than you don't need, less a meal plan. So there's a meal plan, but there's a few factors that you can kind of consider. But I definitely think for most people, the basic is enough, especially because um, you'll also have like lots of opportunities for free food, like for club events or other NYU events. So like you'll definitely be set when it comes to all of that. I guess there's another question from Christine that's like, what are some of the coolest places in New York City? So I know we specifically already talked about food, but what about some like non-restaurant things, like other events you like going to, or other kind of places?
Yeah, I can start us off. I love being in Brooklyn. I think I love like the vibe of the area. So the Brooklyn Museum, I went like a few weeks ago. It's so cool. I'm a big fan of like physical art, so like furniture art I love, like big sculptures I love. So that like made me so happy. And I know like Urban Jungle, it's like a huge thrift store that's also I think Williamsburg, maybe not Williamsburg, but like around that area. It's so huge. Like you'll be there for days just looking at so many clothes. So I definitely recommend those two.
I feel like New York City has so much that it's so hard to know what's going on, especially there's a lot of pop-up events that happen temporarily, and then there's some things that are just really niche. And I use TikTok personally to find all those things. So TikTok gives me a bunch of recommendations. Like recently, last weekend, I went to a pop-up art cafe. I found it through TikTok, but basically they give you all the art supplies, and then you don't need any experience. It was just for fun, and you could just paint for 2 hours with your friends or meet new people. I also go to a lot of concerts in the city because I'm a big fan of music like Danera. And aside from concerts, I also joined a dance team, as I mentioned earlier. And through my dance team, we got to do a lot of really fun stuff. Like actually last night, we went to this dance event where they held it at the Lincoln Center, which is a huge cultural and arts stadium slash center where a lot of big events happen. And we like danced on the dance floor and met a lot of other friends or new friends that just basically vibe with us. And then we all got each other's socials afterwards. So New York City is a great way to meet new people, do new things, and just explore your hobbies and interests.
I guess so I kind of did say that I was exploring, so I guess I do have to give an answer to this one, don't I? So for me, some of the coolest things is definitely A, going to the pier on the west side by far. I run a bit, so I would always go over to the west pier, and I'd always just run along the pier going up and down. It's really cool, really beautiful sight. It's really just a nice place to get some open air, some good fresh air, and so I always enjoyed doing that. As for some of the actual cool places I enjoy going and looking around, I'd definitely say Rockefeller Square. Even not even just to shop or anything, literally just to walk around and look at all the cool and giant buildings and realize that, you're actually in New York City. You are here, you're doing this. And so that's always something I enjoy going around and doing. And then one of the other cooler places, I guess more niche places, is just literally walking around Washington Square Park and seeing whatever you can find. You're going to find something guaranteed. Do not worry about it. It is New York City. You will find something interesting. Just, take the time and enjoy actually looking around. Maybe find like a niche, store. Like I found like a one military surplus store that I went to with one of my friends, and it was pretty cool to actually go in and look around. So you'll find something for sure if you just look around, even if it's just around the area. So don't worry about it.
Yeah, I can also take this. I think definitely recommend the pier. It's super nice, especially like at night if you can see like the bridge and the water. One other thing is Central Park. I think obviously everyone kind of knows about Central Park, but it's really cool. And I think especially now that the weather's a lot nicer, just like walking around, um, there's all sorts of events. There's like the zoo, but just being able to walk like with your friends. There's everything. There's like a line of museums, like the Met, and I think all of those are like really great opportunities, especially if you like art, but also just if you want like outdoor space. Because sometimes New York City can just feel like buildings, so being in a huge park with like trees and nature is really cool, especially if you're doing like I know there's a lot of like athletic like sports games and practices there too. So if you are interested in that, definitely recommend. We have another question about NYU dining halls. Does anyone kind of want to talk about their thoughts and favorite dining hall?
I can go. I lived in Third North my freshman year, so Third North has its own dining hall on like the first floor. So I was there like every day. I'm a big supporter of Third North as a dining hall. I loved it. I relied on it. But I also know that Palladium brunch was like a really big thing. They have such a wide array of different like brunch options. They also have like outside like danishes and like muffins and stuff, and a huge like chocolate fountain. So depending on like what kind of meal you're looking for, like I definitely recommend Third North as like a Third North E person, and then Palladium brunch is something you definitely should go to.
Kind of adding on to the options that we have in dining halls. So I also lived in Third North and I also loved it, but I also loved Lipton, which is another hall closer to Washington Square Park. I didn't get to go there often, but they're known for their vegetarian options. They have a lot of different types of vegetables and cooked in different cuisines, and I just loved going there because of one, it was healthy, two, it was tasty, and three, it's close to campus. So when I'm not home at my dorm, I would go to Lipton.
So I guess as a resident Weinstein residence hall, and what do you call that? Weinsteiner? That sounds off. I don't know. That sounds a little weird. I went to Weinstein or Downstein. Downstein is the actual all-you-can-eat buffet area of it. Upstein is going to be your more takeout dining that you can order on Grubhub, and then Sidestein is going to be like your commercial not cafe area. What do you call it? Convenience store area. So just a little bit of context for anyone, in case you don't know what that is. I had no clue going in. So I constantly and always would go to Downstein, and I still constantly and always go to Downstein, just using the pay it forward, or even taking some meal swipes from my friend that I mentioned. Is she doesn't run out, so it's fine. So one tip that I do have, since I go to the same dining hall way too often, is vary up the food that you eat. If it's going to get bland if you eat just the pasta there every single day, as I have definitely experienced from eating the pasta there too often. So vary it up, get a bit of protein, veggies. If you do go there in the morning, Downstein has by far the best omelets I've ever had. Definitely recommend the omelets there, and they'll also have breakfast in the morning. It is probably my favorite part about Weinstein, if I'm lucky enough to wake up in time for it. And so I definitely recommend going there, varying up your food. But as for rating the dining halls, I everyone has a different taste. As someone who's constantly hungry, everything tastes good to me. So I don't personally know how you guys actually find the dining halls. I enjoy all of them, to be honest, and I think they're a lot definitely underrated. But everyone's gonna have a different taste. Everyone's gonna like different food. Just make sure if you want it to constantly stay good, that you're gonna vary up what food you eat.
Yeah, I will also plug Lipton. I think it's pretty underrated. I'm actually vegetarian, so it's like great for me because there's always like so many different vegetarian options, pasta, vegetables, and it's like pretty healthy. So I think sometimes it's nice to go, and it's also closer to like the Washington Square area. But yeah, overall, I kind of agree with Daniel. Like the dining halls are pretty good, and there's plenty of variety. Like there's so many dining halls, so there's a lot of options there.
So I guess I can take this one really quick, since I'm kind of also a little bit more into math. So for me, math was actually a big part of my whole application. I really enjoy math, and I'm taking the statistics concentration, so I really enjoyed it. I still enjoy it, obviously, but I wouldn't say that you have to focus on math, or you have to go into like, you don't have to already have a master's thesis in math before coming into NYU Stern at all. There are a lot of students I know, like my roommate, who didn't really have the best math background. He was actually a lot more focused on writing and literature and all of that. So it was really, really cool to actually see him just do well here and learn math really well. And even he used me as a resource to learn math really well. So you don't actually have to, math is important to know math, and you definitely should be, focus on math a little bit, as math is just in general important. But you definitely don't have to go all the way up to like Calc 3 in high school or anything. If you just take Calc 1 or Calc 2, and you kind of like challenge yourself a little bit in math to what you think, then that should be perfectly fine, as long as you have a well-rounded portfolio and applications, and maybe strong suits in other areas.
Yeah, I'm not sure if this question is asking about like admissions or how math is like freshman year, but as part of like the Stern curriculum, you're only required to take like calculus one. So definitely don't be too worried if you like don't want to take those sorts of calculus classes. But obviously there is some math involved in business. But the cool thing about the kind of business curriculum is that you can kind of there's a lot of flexibility in terms of taking the classes that you really want to. So there's definitely no pressure to take like extra math or statistics courses. Like I know I'm a little bit of a math nerd, so I personally did, but I know plenty of people that didn't really want to take math classes and wanted to focus on some other areas. So that's totally fine, and there's plenty of flexibility based on kind of your interests and kind of what you want to do.
Yeah, I actually have not taken a single math class since high school because I passed AP Calc and I was like, I'm done with math. Well, I took statistics, but it wasn't like, math. But definitely want to echo what Sashi said. It's not required. The courses are very flexible. You can focus on whatever area you're interested in. And I think that kind of ties in with the new question that Christine just dropped about AP Econ. Um, Microeconomics is a required class for freshmen or for students, but it's you really do not have to put a major focus on econ if you don't want to, because even though econ is one of the concentrations, if you're not interested in it, you don't have to take more than what is required of you for economics. And that goes for all subject areas.
Yeah, so concerning like the mode of transportation question, New York City is like a huge urban city, so you don't really need a car to go anywhere. There's a subway that's very convenient. There's also MTA buses, there's an NYU shuttle, or even just like walking. I live in the third north. It was like about a 15-minute walk every day, which was really fun because I was able to see all the different people of New York City and all the buildings. So yeah, I think a car would be too much, but yeah, just utilize the different modes of transportation already integrated into the city, or take advantage of the ones that NYU offers.
Yeah, I live like around First Avenue, so I just walk to school every day. It's maybe like a 10-15 minute walk, depending on how relaxed I am on the day. And so it's really nice to actually go to a city where I can walk everywhere instead of here in Lancaster where just have to drive everywhere. So I definitely really wouldn't recommend bringing a car. I think it's much easier to use the subway systems. Even City Bike, which is around, is very, very nice and something I plan on doing if I ever get an apartment farther out. And so I would definitely recommend either City Bike, walking, or the subway. Those are definitely the three best ways to get around in the city.
Awesome. Yeah. Since we're talking about transportation, I think we can kind of talk a little bit about kind of what our days look like as students. So in terms of like extracurriculars, friends, how do you balance that with kind of studying? Does anyone have any tips or kind of want to talk about their experience kind of as a day in life?
Yeah, so I could talk a little bit about the clubs I'm in. So as I mentioned before, we're all part of street team, so it allowed me to participate in this really cool event that we're hosting right now. And then I've also walked in a lot of different Stern clubs before, like Marketing Society or just Stern Tisch Entertainment Business Association. They have amazing speakers that come in to talk about their careers and like their career journey and how to find out what you want to do in the future and how to get there, which has been amazing for me to learn about like what career I want to go into in the future. And as I mentioned before, I'm a part of like One Love at NYU, which is an NYU club. So we do a lot of like workshops for that about like healthy relationships. And then as a part of CUIC or like Consult Your Community at NYU, I work with different small businesses and nonprofits in the area for some pro bono consulting work, which also like makes me feel like so good about myself and like about what I contribute to the community. So yeah, I definitely love being able to participate and find it so rewarding to participate in various clubs on campus.
Yeah, I definitely echo what Daenerys said. Every day, I guess, I usually have some kind of club event or like a meeting for a club. And so I guess day to day, I go to class. I also work on campus at Stern actually, and I work from home. So on those days, I stay home, and then I also try to get dinner with friends on most days, or try to do something with friends. And if you want to really see details of my day-to-day, I'm actually taking over Stern's Instagram next Wednesday and Thursday. Quick plug if you want to tune in. And the Instagram handle is at Stern UC undergraduate college. So if you want to hear about a typical day-to-day of a Stern student, definitely tune in.
All right, yeah, I can talk a little bit about my days. Because I'm a freshman, I like basically taking classes most days. But I think one thing you have a little bit flexibility to do is whether you want more morning classes or more afternoon classes. So for me, I have classes later in the day, so I have a little bit of time in the morning to sometimes sleep in, but also just even sometimes get work done. And then you can kind of go to classes, and then Stern has this thing called Common Hour, which is from 12:30 to 1:30, and it's basically a designated time for all clubs to happen Monday through Friday, and that's a great time to kind of go to a club event. So for me, I could go to like a net impact event, for example, and be able to kind of explore that and go to any of the meetings. And then you can kind of go back to classes or have lunch. So there's definitely some flexibility in your day to day. And a lot of times it won't be as packed as your high school classes were in terms of like straight classes from like the morning to the afternoon. So there's flexibility kind of there.
Yeah, so for me, a lot of mine right now is kind of focused on classes. I haven't taken like 18 credits, and I also have undergrad research, as I mentioned. So a lot of my time, if I'm not at the campus, just kind of studying in one of the lounges or even going to Bobst. Bobst is our library for anyone who's unaware, which has the greatest chairs in the world. Please go and sit in those chairs. I generally spend my time in my dorm where I have a actually pretty nice setup for something I really like. Sorry, my apartment where I have a good setup, and so I'll just get a lot of my work done there. My roommate behind me, in the apartment, obviously, is in Stern as well, and so we'll kind of talk about the classes that we're taking. And since we're in two classes together, actually, a lot of the time we'll spend talking and working on our projects for those classes at home. And so a lot of my time is kind of spent at home, and then I'll go off to class. I have specs as well, and so I'll stay in specs and then go to class for a bit, and then I'll stay at Stern for a little bit, just kind of getting some work done. And then on the weekends is when I spend a lot of my free time doing fun stuff like going back to Lancaster for a weekend and seeing my parents.
And since we're on the topic of day-to-day, someone asked if NYU has a gym. We have two gyms, and I go a lot of times during the week. And sorry, that was my hoodie. So if you're interested in that kind of activity, we also have rock climbing in the gyms too. So
Yeah, I highly recommend the gyms. We have one called 404 and one called Palladium. So based on where you live, you can kind of choose what's closest to you. But with that, we're getting to the end of the hour. I know there was a couple more questions that we didn't get to answer from the chat, but feel free to email us. You can see our email on the slide at straightteam@stern.nyu.edu. And we're happy to answer these questions pretty extensively. You'll hear from one of the street team members that kind of have an experience, have the experience that if you have questions about. But otherwise, this is kind of the end. This was a great 1 hour. I love getting to chat with you all and answering your questions. But yeah, congrats, class of 2026. And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye. Congratulations, everyone.
Congrats.
And thank you for coming as well. It was super fun.